Horizons 2 looks to shake up the modern format, as well as inevitably provide new toys for Commander. But, as well as mechanical hotness, there seems to have been a challenge in the WOTC design meetings to see how many wild flavour beats they could hit in one go. So, with so much in one set, what are our flavour picks, and is there a potential for the community jokes to be ruined? Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast where we talk about all things Magic flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
And Wizards of the Coast really wanted to make a black-bordered unset, didn't they?
I haven't thought about it like that, but yeah, absolutely.
Really?
I mean,
That's
as I said last
all
week,
I've been thinking
squirrels!
about.
I know,
I get squirrels and nuttiness and sorry. Hello everyone.
No,
we're talking
nuttiness.
about Modern Horizons 2 today, and this is technically our flavor picks episode. But I don't know. It's going to have a much looser feel, I think, to other flavor picks episodes because this is an ancillary set. Because this is a set that doesn't necessarily look to kind of tell a certain narrative or whatever else. Although there are a couple of very strong through lines. We're not necessarily doing flavor picks because there's not like a structure to kind of grab onto. But this set, like Commander Legends and like the previous Modern Horizons, is just absolutely full to the brim with flavor and references. So we are doing kind of a loose episode. We're going to work through some of our favorite bits and bobs, touch on some smaller things, touch on some larger arcs. But I mean, yeah, the big takeaway from me is like this is just a bonkers set in tone and flavor. Do you not think?
Yeah, in terms of like flavor, this is like a double shot espresso, like injected into your veins. Like there is a lot of flavor in this set. Again, not necessarily a direct like storyline, even if there are like bits of story that we have been fed cards of that we had hints of from years and years and years ago, from like the inception of Magic. But I was speaking to a couple of guys because happened to go to my LGS today for the first time since everything's been reopened, and had that initial like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know if they could have possibly tried to fit more into the set. Yeah. It's like they took the entire bowl of spaghetti, chucked it against the wall, and it all just stuck, and they went, cool, ship it, let's go. Like, there are so many random things. I'm like, that's a custom card, surely. Or that's a custom card. Or they haven't printed that. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Honestly,
they just went, you like unsets, do you? Well, how about have this then? Oh, you like the little tester cards we did in Mystery Boosters? Have that. Do you like squirrels, do you? Put this down your throat and you're going to fucking love it.
Have it. And they still managed to revamp Modern in a way. Like, this is the thing that
it's almost aggressive.
Again, yes, it's very aggressive. And it's funny, I was listening to the professor from TCC, and he was mentioning how, as someone who plays Modern himself, and Rude, like the transitional period that Modern Horizons did for it from last set, it feels like a set not built as an ancillary Commander product. It doesn't feel like it's, there's these plants, for Commander sets, which, there are a couple that are definitely good within the format. But even as he said, like, it's supporting the Modern format as well. It's almost like they've managed to tick every single box under the sun. So yeah, I mean, again, there's going to be a lot of us to pick apart as we go through.
Yeah, for sure. I think very quickly, as hilarious Magic players tend to do whenever a new Magic set comes out, they called it Commander Horizons or Commander Legends, even though they've literally already done a set like that. And they did this exact same joke with the last Modern Horizons. And I think for the first lot of previews, that was ringing true because there wasn't much in the way of like, this is going to absolutely like support Modern. And then the more that we saw cards coming out, the more they saw like reserve list cards getting reprinted as like creatures or in different forms with similar abilities, so they can have reserve list cards back. Old border cards that aren't legal in Modern getting like a new spin as well, so they're coming in. Things like Counterspell that just haven't been in the format getting put into the format, and something was like, okay, yes, of course this is a Commander set, because every set's a Commander set, because Commander can have cards from any fucking set. But this is actually really a considered sort of set for Modern. And being someone who doesn't play a lot of Modern as well, I'm like, this makes Modern look fun. Like, Modern to me personally just seemed like, okay, there are X amount of decks in the meta. I'm aware that the meta's actually been quite good recently for Modern. As someone who doesn't play the format, I've listened to other voices, and they're like, actually, Modern's relatively diverse at the moment, but there are still like top tier decks. And this has just gone, how about we just completely change what the meta is and like make like hoses for like certain deck types and stuff. So I'm really happy that this has turned out well for Modern. But we're not here to talk about Modern or even EDH, really. We're here to talk about the flavour of the set. Now, I don't know if you agree with this or not. There seems to be two main like character settings for this set in terms of like, we're going to tell this story and we're going to tell this story. One of them belongs to Dakon Blackblade, right? Yeah. So Dakon is the big face character for the whole set. He was originally printed in Legends. He had was it I can never remember the name. Is it IDW? That's the comic company, right?
Yes, the IDWs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he had an IDW comic in the 90s, which kind of told his story. And more recently in Magic history, we've seen the Black Blade, which was the Black Blade of Dakon Blackblade and Korlash, heir to Blackblade, being in the hands of Gideon. So we've kind of already touched on his story in recent years and kind of had references to him. But again, he's just one of those obscure Legends characters that unless you read comics or like are actively seeking out the story, there aren't that many cards which have what he's about on there. And like most old Magic stories, it's so fucking dense and impenetrable that even if you
Mm.
were half aware of what he was about, there's just no way you're going to get the full story. And we get a shit ton of cards with his story on, right?
Yeah, I feel like the throwback for that's that far back, so far back that your grandpa catches the ball, that kind of a throwback that you kind of need to give some context. You don't just go, "Oh, here's a little bit," right? I'm glad that they fully went, "Okay, here's the protagonist, here's the antagonist." Some of the cards, like there's a white common, for example, it's like just like a pump effect that talks a little bit about like I'm sure you're going to go into this anyway in a second, but like yeah, they did a little spread to kind of give you a nice firm context, even if you're a new player, you're a modern player. If you're one of those kinds of folks, then it gives you, I say, that a little bit of a broader spectrum instead of just being like, oh, that random guy that was on the sword. Okay, cool. What's so important about him? And he goes, well, let's just show you.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so the cards in this set, at least these over the couple of times I've combed over the set that I've spotted that are to do with Dakon's larger story. And we're not going to go deep into Dakon's story or the next one. The Vorthos cast, funnily enough, did a fantastic episode where they went a little bit deeper as an introduction to the story of Dakon Blackblade. So check out their first one of two, I believe, Flavour Gems episodes that they do for the full Dakon story. But the cards in this set tell the story of Dakon I have references to are the Planeswalker, Dakon Shadow Slayer, which Dakon was a Planeswalker. He has only ever had a creature card, so it's cool that he's got a Planeswalker card now. Karth the Lion and Karth One-Eyed, who are both related to Gerard Carthelion, which was in Commander Legends, so they've even like kind of put in these little references in recent sets as well. Gaedrone Dehada, who's the other new Planeswalker of the set, or at least there are actually a couple more, but she was the main villain of the Dakon storyline and is actually the one who commissioned Dakon to make the Black Blade in the first place. And she's kind of coming with an updated design as well. If you go back to the IDW comics, which is where she was first seen, she suffered from what I like to call like 90s comic sickness, which is where it was like 90s comics, especially for female characters. They were like, oh yeah, we'll make them look cool, Also boobs. And so they've
skinny
kind of
waist, big tits, ship it. Let's go.
Exactly. Whereas now they've kept her design and still paid a lot of homage to it, but they've kind of just made her outfit just a bit cooler and a bit more badass and a little less male gazy, which is they've kind of done the thing which Marvel, the MCU, has done a great job of doing with 90s comic designs. Like Scarlet Witch is the latest example of that. If you watch WandaVision, the Scarlet Witch outfit from that is like a perfect revamp of the Scarlet Witch sort of comic book outfit. And I think, yeah, Dehada's got that kind of glow up here as well. Profane Tutor, so we've got a suspended demonic tutor, also shows Dakon Blackblade. Shattered Ego, Blacksmith's Skill, Flay Essence, like these are all cards from all different rarities, characters and just spells and whatever. They're all telling the story of Dakon Blackblade. So yeah, really cool to see. He's a cool character. Encourages people to go back and read those stories and look up about who these people are as well. And yeah, also I guess Dehada is technically not a bipedal planeswalker because
no, she's a demon.
She's
That's
a demon
really
with
cool.
tentacles, so a little bit like
demon
Teva's Zat.
planeswalker.
Yeah.
This was the thing. I was like, she got. They took away the '90s thing and they added in the weird, like the weird tentacle fetish. It's almost like they sidestepped to a different stage of weird. But I think, a lot of people are like, oh, is it related to Tevesh? It's like, well, no, because Tevesh was originally humanoid and then became draconic, whereas Gaedrone was always a demonic kind of planeswalker. So I'm glad they gave her that kind of weirdness. Again, really annoyed that we don't get to see full artworks. We'll get into this in a little bit as well. There's one of my bugbears for the set is yet again whether or not we're covering up good artwork or not. I like the fact that she's all the things that I want from like a steal your stuff kind of walker, but doesn't just automatically go into everything. Whereas Dakon on the other side, if you're playing Esper, I don't see why you wouldn't play him in most things. He seems quite strong, quite powerful.
Dakon's very solid. Another Esper Planeswalker as well. I do like Esper Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
They're always pretty.
It's nice to get tricolour walkers, right? In general, like we don't get them very often, so it's quite nice to see them.
Yeah, Richard Kane Ferguson, also who did the original Dakon Blackblade, and also did a version of Blackblade Reforged as well in the Gideon spellbook. I think there's only one related card to Dakon that's not got a Richard Kane Ferguson in terms of an actual Dakon Black Blade, like with something with him on the artwork or the Black Blade on the artwork. I think there's only one which doesn't have a Richard Kane Ferguson version. So that's cool that they've got them back to do it as well. The other big story that they told, or this is kind of like a B story, is Asmarano, Mardo, Kadaisen, Kaldakar. Yeah,
Asmarano, Mardo, Kaldakar. Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
we haven't spent a week practicing trying to make sure.
Oh,
I mean,
I think
as
I
the entire internet has, right? Because I spent like literally like the day it was spoiled. I spent like a good 5 minutes on the train home doing it, and the next morning everyone's pronouncing it with these weird inflections and stuff. And I'm like, well, no, I've already learned how to say it. God damn it! Stop it.
Yeah.
Let me have my thing.
So very cool that they're in the set as well. This is a character that we referenced in our multiverse menu restaurant at the end of the multiverse episode, where this was the character who appeared on Flavour Text all the way. I mean, is it Alpha? That was the first time that we saw this.
Yeah,
on the card?
the stone gargoyle.
Stone gargoyle, yeah. In fact, there is
yeah.
marble gargoyle in the set, which is a reference. So this is obviously a character that has been in the game for a while, and like we said in that episode, is a chef who wrote the Underworld cookbook. So the very sort of fly by notes of this character storyline is that they made a deal with a demon, and part of that deal is that their end of the bargain was that they had to cook for the demon using horrible ingredients that would never go together, like horrible like scorpions and demon guts and goblins and all this kind of thing. And if any meal that as Morano made that wasn't perfect and wasn't delicious, the demon would kill her. And the idea was that she never made a bad deal, and she wrote down all the recipes in the Underworld cookbook, and the Underworld cookbook got to the surface world and became famous as a cookbook. There are several cards dedicated to this character. So Asmarano, Mardi, Kadaisen, and Kaldakar is one of them. This is the Creature card. The Underworld cookbook, we actually get the Underworld cookbook. Chef's Kiss, Marble Gargoyle, which is a reference to Stone Gargoyle, and Discerning Taste. The reason that they said they were never going to print this character is because the name was too long. And in fact, there's a really famous, like magic famous video of, I think it's Kelly Diggs or is it Ethan Fleischer? Oh, that's really annoying that I can't remember. But it's one of the Creative World team was saying that they would never print this character on a card because the name is too long for the text box, and that they'd have to reduce the font size so small that it would be pointless. The way they've got around this, and I actually only noticed this a couple of days ago, is that this character doesn't have a mana cost.
Yeah.
If you discard a card, it's in the rules text. If you discard a card, then you can cast it for either a black or a red, but they just didn't need to put that in the text box. It was really clean design.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, again, I love how they go, oh, we'll never be able to do this, and it's like 10 years later, it's almost like people it's like, hold my beer, let's make this happen.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I like that it directly references the Underworld cookbook as well. So it's like a 1-2 like sort of it's like a package, like a ready-made package of cards that get put into the set, because Asmarano grabs the Underworld cookbook and then they synergize with each other. So again, for a faster format like Modern, where you can have multiples of each, if you build a deck around this interaction, like you're golden. And this is a really cool way of getting flavor into the Modern format as well. Like you can make an Asmarano deck, like probably more powerful and more sort of synergistic than even a Commander deck would be if you built around this guy, right? Around this character.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't necessarily know if it's if those two particularly are like super like tiered, but I mean, it would make a functional deck. You know, there's definitely plenty of. I mean, obviously, everything that's in standard is available to Modern, right? I'm not necessarily sure if. I don't think Yome counts, does he? No, I don't think that's printed to Modern. I think that's printed to Legacy. But I mean,
well,
yeah.
Here you go.
Like...
Then here's a question. Then Asmarano versus Gyome. Who makes a better chef creature?
Oh man, see, why do I have to choose?
Because you're the Gyome fanboy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to be fair, we wanted chefs, like, and we after the
we got so many of them.
We got two immediately given to us, so it was beautiful. I personally think Gyome. I feel like they do two different things, right? Gyome's like the chef that's kind of helping, right? So it makes your creatures indestructible because it feeds them up and then they're all good to go. Whereas as Morano, like, you know, sacks 2 foods and the creature deals damage to itself. So, which kind of, I guess, goes against the flavor that she's able to make anything delicious. But then what does a demon find delicious, right? I guess only Asmo really knows. I think personally I would try to just, as I said to you when they first spoiled it, I would try to rule 0 with my group and be like, can I just have a partner deck? And it's like chef off, you know, it's like a Hell's Kitchen or like a Master Chef, like Dominaria edition, you know, like that kind of thing of where they have to play off of each
Iron
other.
Chef.
Exactly right. This kind of idea. So I mean, I think I haven't seen the food token for them for the Modern Horizon, but I think it's less delicious looking than the ones from
Well, the whole point
Strixhaven or
is that
from.
she's making meals out of horrible shit. But I think they are. The point is that they are delicious. It's like that's why they're so unbelievably talented. They beat the
Yeah.
demon in the story.
Which is crazy. I mean, I also like the fact we actually get the Underworld cookbook after this much time as well, and it's quite a cool little effect. Yeah, really good. It's great to see. I can't believe they did it. And saying that now, the problem is now we need to go back through all of the other times they said, oh no, we can't do this for whatever reason, we can't do this for whatever reason. Go now, you did Esmeralda, which must be one of the hardest ones to try and fit in because formatting a card is one of the main hold things that hold cards back, right? Of there is only so much you can put on a card. So I'd like to look back through that same article and be like, let's see what other things you said you couldn't do that are probably definitely coming within the next year when you need to outdo Modern Horizons 2, because how the fuck do you outdo this set?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, something that they said they would never do is reprint reserve list cards, i.e. Black Lotus. And they got around that, haven't they?
Yeah, refuse to make the tokens, you cowards. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, you can actually play. You can play Black Lotus, multiple Black Lotuses. You can have multiple Black Lotuses in your deck. You can have it. You can have Black Lotus in your command zone, Andy.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, this is it. So yeah,
in.
this is Garth One Eye that we're referencing. So Garth One Eye is a human wizard 5/5 for Wooburg. So you need the full Wooburg to cast him. Legendary creature human wizard, as I said. Tap, choose a card name that hasn't been chosen from among Disenchant, Brain Geyser, Terror, Sheevan Dragon, Regrowth, and Black Lotus. Create a copy of the card with the chosen name. You may cast the copy. Brackets, you still pay its costs. So yeah, there we go. Like, I think also the kind of in kayfabe, to use a wrestling term, reason that they can't do this Black Lotus token is because they don't like making tokens of things that you can already cast as a card. So if a card said, for example, like, oh, you can make a copy of Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, you wouldn't get a token of Jace, Wielder of Mysteries because there is already a card. I don't know why I picked a Planeswalker as a token, but you know what I mean.
Well, yes. Well, they've literally made copy tokens recently, right? And the whole point is that this is a copy of a card. And I mean, I get the whole reason why this is possible is because they had to being able to make token copies of permanents, right? Between Double Major, Lithoform Engine, all these kinds of things are now it's new playing space, and you can kind of see of where like this is as much as they can push the envelope in terms of like a tongue-in-cheek nudge wink wink kind of thing. Mechanically, I'm sure they'll push it in various different directions as well going forwards. I can't see a world too far away where we have like land tokens, even though I know that might cause confusion for like when you're for shuffling purposes and things like that. But it's almost like a little glimpse of like, oh, okay, this is where you're willing to push it. I imagine we're going to see this again in the next year or so in Commander products. We'll see it a lot more now. We've got little drops of it, right?
Cool. All right. Well, that was those are the big things that I think we just need to get out of the way and sort of say these are the big marquee things that we're looking at. But to be honest, a lot of people are looking at those big marquee flavor hits, and there's actually so much more in this set. There's also just loads of references to other cards at that. If we were to go through each one, this would be such a huge episode. Like cards that like what was it? Diamond Lion is Lion's Eye Diamond, for example.
Yeah,
Like it's just it's just crazy. So this is how they've been printing a lot of these older, more powerful cards into Modern that aren't broken, or at least at time of recording, no one's broken them open just yet. So really, if you want to know if there's a reference on a card, take the Scryfall page I'm going to put in the description, randomly scroll to a card, and it's going to be a reference to something else. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go through, you've done some categories, Nathan, and I've got a big gloss of cards I want to talk about. So if you run through your categories, and then I'll kind of chip in whenever. We're going to talk about some of our favorite little flavor beats, some little things that we've noticed, any little predictions for future sets, artwork. You know the spiel. We tend to mull around these things. So, yeah, what's your first little category?
So my first category is like flavor beats, and this is obviously a very broad term because certain cards will have flavor things that are like almost like within universe, and I'm like, what? And there are other ones that I'm just happy to see more representation from the plane or that kind of thing. Like, and again, this is one of these kinds of sets that has cards from various different planes, various different mechanics. It's got everything from Unearth to Madness, everything in between it. So my main point was nice. What was really nice to see was that we got a bit more of a Lara. Now I don't know why. And this is on cards like Brayer's Apprentice and Esper Sentinel. Obviously, there's a big artifact theme within white, red. I think it's modular, and then there was an affinity as well in white, blue. So there's a lot of like artifact synergies within the set. I think it's really nice to be able to see like if this is modern, like if this, I don't mean, God damn, if this is current, sorry, I'm going to use a different word so it's not too
Sure,
confusing.
yeah.
If this is current storytelling, that means that Breya exists in the current storyline, right? And this means that we might see her when we go back to Alara. And I don't know if this is, I don't know why, but there seems to be a general hubbub in the community at the moment of maybe we're going to go back to Alara at some point soon. I mean, Ajani's still very much prevalent in the story. So's Elspeth, and it'll be interesting to see what, going back after seeing the conflux. Right, we even got a Jund noble hierarch, right, which is very clearly kind of, again, they might just be feeding us little bits to go, oh, you've got people that like Alara here, have a little bit of something, instead of maybe hinting at it coming in the future. But when they do one plane per set and 17 sets a year, there's only so long before we go back to Alara, right?
Sure.
So yeah,
I mean, it's funny that you say that Alara was the one that stood out to you, because, again, to reiterate your point, there are so many planes represented in this set. Like, it's actually quite cool and like impressive at how many they've done little references to. The two that I thought were like, oh, they've really shown off these planes here. One of them's Theros and the other one's Ravnica. There are so, like, especially in the legends, like with Theros, you've got cards like Sithis, Harvester's Hand, and then Ravnica's got Lonis, Cryptozoologist, or Zoologist. Yeah, Cryptozoologist, and then General Ferrus Rokirik, who are new characters, or at least characters that haven't had cards before. And there are just so many other little references to things. It's funny that you talk about being set in the kind of current timeline, because there was a card that I noticed, Nykthos Paragon, which is 4 white for an enchantment creature, human soldier, 4/6. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many 1/1 counters on each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. And the flavor text is, though Heliod turned against humanity in his hunger for power, the ideals he once championed still stand strong. So this is, the card ability is very closely linked to Heliod Suncrowned from the latest Theros set. And the flavor text makes note of the fact that people on Theros know that he's a dickhead. Like, it's not just that he's faded away into memory. People remember the fact that he was actively, like, against humanity for his own ends. But people are still holding by his belief, which is kind of a cool thing. And it obviously shows that this is, after Theros Beyond Death. So I think, you're bang on the money there.
I think it's funny you mentioned that as well, because literally the card right above it in Mythic Spoiler is Resurgent Belief, and it shows, it doesn't have any flavor text or anything, but it has Erois and Thassa shown within the little portal window thing that suspend cards seem to all have now, which is cool. I'm not entirely sure metaphysically what it represents.
This is one of my points on my thing. I'm going to swing back to this later on, but yes, keep going.
The point being, we'll get back to that. But so it's got 2 statues either side of this little pocket window, and through the pocket window you can see what I assume is the actual manifestations of Erois and Thassa. The whole point, Resurgent Belief. Now that doesn't only mean that belief's coming back; it means that it went into regression, right? So, and we know that Ajani, towards the end of the original Theros block, went around being like, shit posting about Heliod, and it kind of probably worked by the time we get to Theros Beyond Death, even though we didn't get enough story to know the ins and outs of it. We assume that there was this conflict between the mortals and the gods, right? This almost like disbelief, or we didn't get any confirmation of that because the story was lacking, to say the least, in Theros Beyond Death. But I have a feeling that the idea is that the gods have fallen out of favor, right, and their power might be dwindling, because that's the way that Nyx works, right? It's supportive of the more their denizens believe in them, the stronger they are, the more of a presence they have, that kind of idea. And so it's interesting to see again, if this is the current story or the current part of Theros we're seeing, then Resurgent Belief is one of the cards, because maybe there was a dip, maybe we'll go back and we'll see that there was, I say we go back. We're not going back to Theros for ages. I can't think. I don't think. But it'd be nice to again go back and have that idea broken down a little bit, where it's not just gods and everyone believes in them. It could be that there's this a bit more of a flex between the mortals and the immortals of Theros.
One little card that actually might put a little spanner in the works for that theory is you have Sudden Edict, which is one of the new Split Seconds cards that has in one future I see glory, in the other, well, that's another story. Whisper, Blood Liturgist. And I believe Whisper, who is a character from Dominaria, who is one of the Cabal leaders, I think, didn't she die in the latest Dominaria set?
Oh, true. Yeah, when they're going through the stronghold, right? Yeah.
So maybe it's a mix, but for sure, Nykthos, the one that I just said, the one Nykthos Paragon, that's it. For sure, that one is set after Theros Beyond Death. So we'll see. We'll see about Alara.
Also, Sithis. Now, if I just say that name to you, what colours does it evoke in your head?
Well, I'm thinking of Skyrim, the Assassin's Guild, so
Yeah,
blue-black.
it's definitely a white green though, right? Like I was like, of all the names, that's like the Sithis, Harvester of Kittens. That doesn't, it doesn't.
Maybe it's
It was just such a
Scythist,
weird.
like a scythe.
Yeah.
I think it's Scythist.
Okay, that changes everything. Good. Never mind. Moving on.
No. I thought the same as you. This is actually just coming to me. I will be
This-
turning my Karametra deck into a Scythist deck, so I'll
Oh,
keep
fantastic.
the kind of visual themes, but I'm gonna change up the game plan. Yeah, then I won't feel like I've left my god behind. Yeah,
Oh,
cool.
yes, that's good. You're true to the story. Good. Yeah, your belief is fading.
Yeah, it'll be resurgent. There we go.
Mm. Okay, so next one is another plane that was nice to see more of. We got to see a bit more of Ixalan, and I've got in brackets, man, I really loved Ixalan, and it's only when I see cards like when we saw Vargas Wrath, when we saw who else did we get in? Of course, Breaches and Malcolm in
Lannery
the
Storm.
Commander set. And obviously Captain Lannister came in the main set proper. It was nice to have that with the fact we're getting little tidbits. Now we've got Captain Ripley Vance from Vance's Blasting Cannons, and we've also got our little man, Mr. Ragavan. Oh, sorry,
Ragavan.
Ragavan. That's it. Thank
Ragavan.
you.
Ragavan's from Kaladesh.
Oh, fucking shit, mate.
I'll tell you why you thought it was a Vixlan. It's because they're the monkey companion for Kari Zev, who's a pirate on Kaladesh.
Oh man, I'm such a bad Vorthos. Honestly, I'm just deleting it.
But we do have a Ragavan creature card, which was a card that is from a creature that was previously a token, which is pretty cool.
It was one of the first legendary creature tokens beside Tuk Tuk as well was one, and then obviously we got the one from the Verix Bladewing or whatever it was.
I suppose also got Merit Lage as well.
Oh, true. No, that was the true first legendary token. Yeah, I guess maybe the Caldra one as well. I guess I'm just digging my hole of my memory, slowly digging a hole of things that I'm saying wrong things. But the point I raise it is that it's really nice to see Ripley Vance because, again, any time that we see flavor text of named characters, it's really nice to go back and get more of them. And it's also really nice to see that it generally seems like 90% of the captains in Ixalan are female. Or at least of the pirate coalition, which is it's a nice almost like flip side, right? Because I think historically women weren't exactly treated well during pirating times, so it's quite a nice flip side of it. Also, Ragavan's really cool because he's got the dash mechanic, so when you you can pay an extra mana to have him come in with haste, and then after combat he gets bounced back to your hand again. That's really interesting because the original Karizev card, when she attacked, made a 2/1 Ragavan that then got exiled at the end of combat. So it's kind of synonymous with the way he used to just jump in and back out again. And I like to call it throwing the monkey at people because I play Karizev in my Timner and Tile deck. It's just nice to throw a monkey at someone every now and again.
Sure.
So
well,
really happy to get him going.
I used to run the Grenzo Havoc Razor deck, which he was kind of like one of the OG rummage commanders, I suppose you'd call it. Well, I suppose not rummage. Impulsive draw, but off the top of other people's libraries. So then you had things like Atali Primal Storm. You had Robber of the Rich and the new Breaches, who was in Commander Legends, Stolen Strategy, and now Narsi Dean of Blummin' Heck. Vilder Nasari, that's it, Nasari, Nasari, Dean of Expression. So yeah, it looks like this is something they're really now leaning into red, and this is now what red is. Red is just smash and grab. It's a bit like blue, but just a lot more chaotic, I think, which is kind of a nice flip side, right?
I mean, Smash and Grab sounds like one of the more red cards. Is there a red card called Smash and Grab? If there isn't, then that should be, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
That should be a fuse card, right? Smash and Grab. But yeah. Again, it's just nice to have them do little things. Give a character that we didn't necessarily need or didn't expect or didn't want. Not didn't want, but didn't necessarily expect and need, and then give him an ability that works and eponymizes him. So now you can have a little legendary monkey deck. Fantastic. Cannot complain. I guess next on the list of flavor beats, and this is really really interesting one, is we've got a creature type, Phyrexian. Now, if this isn't yet another nail in the "we are going to Phyrexia next year, folks" coffin, then I don't know what possibly could be, because there's got to be a great errattering coming up, right, for all of the different cards, because both Bone Shredder and Scourge Familiar have been reprinted into the set, both with the Phyrexian typing. There's been new living weapon cards that are in there. We've got like a Batter Skull Light, right? It's Batterbone, which I don't know if Batterbone sounds very good. I'm not going to lie, it's rolling off the tongue. But the germs now are Phyrexian germs, so it's quite interesting the fact they're doing a typing update for them.
I think Vorinclex Monstrous Raider from Kaldheim, I think, was the true first one, but that was kind of like a one-off.
Just right, I've only ever seen his Phyrexian version.
He's a legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor.
Okay, good. Well, yeah. Again, it's good to have them updated because it always felt weird to me called zombies because it's not really the same. It's like calling a Borg like a construct, right, from Star Trek. Like it's almost like they have a very specific way of regenerating. Because I mean, there's a big difference in like a Walking Dead zombie, right, and a Phyrexian. So I'm kind of glad that they've separated those two out a little bit, and they're kind of carving their own individualism into the creature type. Again, it'd be interesting to see how many get the update. Like, would what's his name, Skizit from Commander Legends, when we have to sacrifice 3 creatures? Is it Skizit? Can't remember now. The black partner
Sure,
legend.
yeah.
Like, I wonder if he'll be updated as a Phyrexian, or if you are only a Phyrexian if you've been Phyrexianized. Like, maybe he's still a human. Is he then a human Phyrexian? Can you be a human and a Phyrexian? Like, that's where I'm going to be interested to see where the errata goes of what typings they get rid of, or what ones just get the Phyrexian added onto the end of it. Because it's quite a big word as well, so it's going to take up quite a bit of space on the type line.
Sure.
So that's something I'll be interested in seeing. But it's just nice to have them kind of cement it and again update the germs into it as well. We're going back to Phyrexia, folks. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, this is right. So the next one. This is a flavor implication question. Grist. I'm not sure how I feel about a bunch of bugs being able to planeswalk around the multiverse, Mandy. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, which one of them's got the spark?
Exactly. Is it all of them? Is it the hive mind? Is it just the queen? Because this is where my bugbear of artwork's going to come. Because the alternate artwork for Grist the Hunger Tide. Let me actually get it up because I'm going to Grist artwork. Because it's one of the better artworks I've seen in a long time. Like, I'm a real big fan of it. But unfortunately, as with all planeswalkers, typically it's covered up by the text box that's not particularly opaque, which makes no sense whatsoever. Victor Adame Minguez, of course, and it's beautiful. And what they've said is that in their alternate artwork, there is this kind of like queen-like bug thing in the eye socket of this big skull. And it's another point of view from a POV shot, right? If you're a dude lying on the ground and you're looking up at this, and it looks really cool. It's almost graceful. She's almost got like a skirt, a dress like kind of.
Yeah, well, it's aping a human appearance of wearing like a dress. Yeah, you're right. The same way that the non-alternative artwork is just a skeleton, right?
Yeah,
so it's trying to be a human.
Yeah, a bit more frightening, I feel like, the regular artwork is. It feels a bit more, again, because it's more synonymous with like a human skull, it kind of feels a little bit more, it's that uncanny valley kind of thing, right? Of where if you have like a walking massive bugs coming at you that's in the form of a human, it's not exactly the nicest thing in the world. But I think the point of the alternate artwork is that the bug that's in the eye socket that's poking out going, hey y'all, I think that's Grist. And then what the idea is that whenever they go to another plane, they create a new hive around them. Maybe the bugs die off, or the ones that from their plane die off as their planes walking. It's just the implications between that and Ren and 6. Like, Modern Horizons really likes throwing out the crazy weird planeswalkers that then they never give any justification for, like. And it's good. I'm glad, because it means that we don't just get a line of the Viashino planeswalker who died, and that's it. That's all we see of them. Like, we get some at least expansion on the possibilities of planeswalkers. The interesting thing about this is obviously because it's a 1/1. It's considered a 1/1 green insect creature in addition to its other types when it's not in play. It allows it to be your commander. So it's another way that they've allowed planeswalkers to be in the command zone. For better or for worse, I know that's something that you're not necessarily in for completely. Nope. I think that it's deliberately underpowered.
Not at all, really. I had a planeswalker deck once. I used to run, oh my lord,
Aminatu
the Fate Shifter. Thank you. I was trying to look for the A name. I had Asmarana Mardi Kadaisa Nakordacar stuck in my head. And yeah, not a fan of planeswalkers as commanders, guys. I'm sorry if you are.
Yeah, I think the only reason this is forgivable because it's like almost insect tribal, right? I'm looking at the abilities. Yes, it has a -2. You can sack a creature if you do destroy target creature or planeswalkers. That's like the only one that has like real utility to it. Like something like see, Will and Rowan are kind of deliberately built to have like a functionality between the two of them when they're both in play. I know that yes, you don't. I mean, it might be something to do with it, right? Is the amount of times I've cast Will from the command zone and then
no. It's not power level. It's function of the game. I don't want to get into it. I'm going to get
sure. No, it's fine.
Play Oathbreaker if you want to have fucking commanders. or Brawl. There are two don't mind, I'm getting into
Flourishing, two flourishing formats that are
on.
highly supported. Right, good. Anyway, so yeah, flavor implications of an insect planeswalker. Don't like it. The more I find out about the multiverse, the less I want to live in it. Thank you very much, Star.
I think I'm gonna flip side that. I think the idea that it's a queen that can go around like a queen insect that has the ability, like their magic, their mancy, is that they have like hive mancy. So they go around the multiverse and they create new hive bodies. I actually think it's kind of cool. It's a little bit like Luca, because Luca goes around and bonds with new creatures, right?
Yeah,
it's just a little Luca, little insect Luca.
It just immediately makes me feel like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Ego, right? Where he just plants little seeds in all the planets and then just takes them over. As you know, I don't know. Sure, yeah. The insect overlords are coming for us, and we're happy about it. Sure.
Look, if we can have an entire plane that's like miniature size, then we can have planeswalkers that are literally small. There's no size to a spark if the spark is relative size or power to the thing that it has.
That sounds like a motivational poster for planeswalkers.
Yeah.
There's no size to your spark, no limitation to your power. Oh,
yeah.
How cute. Well, something that's the implications are a bit strange onto something else where the implications really, really interesting. We've got Kaldra as a creature, right?
Sort of.
Ish. Kaldra complete. So a 7-mana, a 7-mana legendary artifact equipment, living weapon, indestructible. Equipped creature gets +5/+5. First strike, trample, indestructible, haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Equip 7. So basically, all of the pieces of Kaldra. So when we were in original Mirrodin, each of the sets kind of had an iconic marquee piece of equipment: the helm, the sword, and the shield of Kaldra. The idea was when you had all these three on the battlefield, you could pay
cast Exodius.
It was exactly. It was build your own crazy thing. Another legendary token that really hasn't been printed, and I feel like this was the opportunity to do it, and I just don't think it's going to happen, right? But the implication is not only is it still around, but Phyrexia's taken it over and turned it into a living weapon. Now, you can't really see it very clearly in the picture, but it looks terrifying. And the fact that Phyrexia's taken over such an iconic avatar, right? It's the fact that they can complete an avatar.
Well, my thought was, I literally have, it's so funny, like for listeners at home, for this particular episode, because me and Nathan have been so swamped with our work, because UK's opening up, we didn't have time to really confer before we started this episode, like literally hit record. So my notes literally has the sentence, Kaldra completed, how can you complete an avatar? So it's literally, and I've landed on, because I've been mulling it over in the back of my mind since we've been talking about everything else. I don't think it's necessary Kaldra. What I think, because it's the last time these weapons were seen in story, they were in the hands of the Phyrexians as part of their living weapon program, right? Which is where we get all those like germ tokens, which have like Batterskull.
Oh, right, interesting.
So yes. I think they've given the Kaldra armors to a germ, and that the avatar is maybe imbued in the germ. So it's less like they've got the avatar and then they stick them full of Phyrexian juice. I see. Do you know what I mean?
They've just literally equipped a germ with all of the equipment.
Yeah, and Kaldra might like sense, the spirit might be in that living thing, but it's that way round as opposed to them going, "Hello, Kaldra," Phyrexianized, like, you know.
Man, that's what imagine being that germ, just being like, it's you, and then just get put a helm on. Because I mean, I always found it really curious, like, because Batterskull, it was very curious. Like, you could never really tell what was going on. It was just this tiny little germ being put in this battering ram of an equipment. Whereas a man, that, and the thing is, it's all this the black kind of bits in between, right? Like the actual body of it that's a bit kind of menacing and a bit terrifying. So I'd be interested to see if, again, this is a flavor beat that we might see when we go back to Phyrexia, that, you know, Khan bounces down and then it's almost like a sentinel, right? Like the defense mechanism comes into play and the Kaldra Complete comes out and, you know, comes at Khan. I could see that being really, really cool and interesting. It was just funny to see that they're not hiding the fact that Phyrexia is making moves, right, and doing a lot. And again, it's the little seeds that if you're paying attention to them, it kind of makes me feel like Phyrexia is gonna kick some shit up in a bit. From one weird equipment, though, to a weird vehicle. Dermotaxi.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Not sure how I feel about this one either. There's a lot of things in Modern Horizons 2 that I'm like, not sure how I feel about this.
It's a silver-bordered set. It's an unset that they've made black-bordered, and they've just gone, the Vorthoses will deal with it. They'll figure out.
It's fine.
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah, Kaldra's a germ now. Yeah, cool. See, they did it. I told you they'd do it. Like...
Well, the idea, right, is it's a 2-mana artifact vehicle, imprint. So as it enters the battlefield, exile a creature card from a graveyard, and then you tap 2 untapped creatures you control until end of turn. Dome Taxi becomes a copy of the imprinted card, except it's a vehicle artifact in addition to its other types. The idea in the artwork is, right, that there's I can't even see what's trying to drive it, but I think it's 2 dudes, and they're basically they've imprinted a mammoth. And then it's almost like they've taxidermied it into. Oh, it's taxidermy. Oh, it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
What's the problem with that? What's your issue with that?
Because the idea is you can take any old creature and just carve it out into a vehicle. I mean, the funny one that I saw was that you take one of the Eldrazi, right, and then you crew it with 2 of the other Eldrazi. And then someone drew a picture of it, and it was in my mind. I was like, "Oh, that's just fucking hilarious." But it's just the idea that you can just take any old creature and then just shove 2 other creatures into it, and it will just come trundle over and smack you over the head. Like, it's just so silly. It's so good. I mean, I think it's also a really strong card. I mean, they've aggressively costed it, right? But it's just so bizarre. Like, whoever thought that up clearly just went, they'll never let this get through. And then they see it printed, they're like, holy shit, they let it get through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could have done way more. I could have gone way worse. So of all the living weapons that we have in the set, 'cause there are quite a few of them. There's Batterbone, there's Nettlecyst, there's a load of other ones. I find that Dermotaxi is the one that I find the most creepy out of, and Nettlecyst isn't exactly nice to look at, and yet somehow Dermotaxi, man, the name literally makes me smile so hard. But
this
artwork
set reminds me so much of Ice Age in terms of its just wild flip round in tone. So Ice Age is a set which at the same time has cards like Diabolic Vision, which has some spooky motherfucker in a window, and has like all these kind of like really dark sigil cards and just all kinds of really dark iconography. And then it has Goblin Snowman, which is a snowman with a goblin in it.
Yeah.
And it's got that all the way through the set. And if you look at that set and then you look at this one, you go, oh yeah, that's the same game. Yeah, sure. What's an unset? I don't know what you're talking about.
True.
This is just what Magic the Gathering is, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess there was a lot more of a tongue-in-cheekness right back then, because you put everything into the sets. There was no such thing as ancillary sets or supplementary sets. It was all that you kind of had to do the serious and the fun all together and throw it into one pot, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you take Innistrad and you put a funny card in it, it kind of ruins the entire theme of the set, right?
Unless it's like darkly funny.
Yeah, like Mana Skeleton, I can't even think of any others that are particularly good from Innistrad that were a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Moan of the Unhallowed.
Well, Bump in the Night, right, is as close as they got to like wink, nudge, nudge, and it's like some creepy dude standing over your bed. I'm like, okay, right, yeah, that's no longer cute anymore. So yeah, I guess this is the kind of set and that you can get away with it. It's just crazy how far they tried to push it. In terms of like throwbacks that I wasn't expecting, and you sent me this is a Kamigawa throwback. I'm gonna look up this card Chub Toad for a second, because Chub Toad's got like a strange like fan base following. The idea is there's 2 and a green. And this is like, I'm trying to. What set was it from? God, it's 5th edition.
It wasn't even Kamigawa. It's not even a direct reference.
Yeah. So Chub Toad is a 2 and a green for a 1/1, and if it's blocked or becomes blocked, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Now that ability is Bushido, right? So what they did is they made Jade Avenger, and they made a Frog Samurai that has the exact same ability, but they put a real frog instead of this chubby, spiny kind of dude. Look up the original artwork for Chub Toad; it's delightful. I don't know why he's got such a fan base, but people fucking love the Chub Toad. Whereas Jade Avenger looks a bit like Frog from Final Fantasy as well. I feel like that was a deliberate kind of artistic choice. But he looks so cool. He's wielding double katanas. He's a 2/2 for 1 and a green instead of being a 1/1 for 2 and a green. So obviously they've aggressively costed it a little bit. But the exact same ability. It's just a really cool, weird way to do a throwback, bring it into the modern era, whilst also patting me on the back for have a tiny bit more Kamigawa, Nathan. That will help you over. And I'm like, to be fair, if you keep dressing frogs up in samurai costumes, like that's all I really want.
This is just the artistic directors going, oh, I really want to do Ninja Turtles, but we haven't got the IP.
It's so true.
We've got the rabbit and we've got the tortoise from Commander Legends. Oh, Frog Samurai? Yeah, Frog Samurai is better than Turtle Ninja. We can get away with that. Yeah. Just do that. The amount of like alters this card is going to get of it being Leonardo. Like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's just a nice little throwback.
Crazy.
And that's the kind of depth that they're going to, right? Of where they're paying homage to the cards that no one necessarily needed there to be homage to, and made it work. To be fair, I'm getting towards the end. One thing I thought was really interesting was Yavimaya. We got a Yavimaya card, so it's like a green shifted version of your Urbog, your Tomb of Yawgmoth, where all lands are forests in addition to their other types instead of being swamps. 2 interesting points on this. One, cannot believe that Yavimaya didn't have a card already. It's one of those things where you don't really think about it. Same with Gaia, because we've got a Gaia reference card, and I've realised obviously Gaia's never been represented on a card, probably because it's a bit too intangible of a concept to put on a card. It's the same way of like you're not going to get an Urza Planeswalker card because it's kind of you can't balance the flavour of how powerful they were into a card that would feel like it was right. So yeah, it was really strange the fact that we haven't had Yavimaya as a card before. It makes perfect sense as to what the card does, and also there was a mechanical conversation that Mara was having about how certain cards like Yawgmoth's Will and Urborg should have been green effects in the first place. It's not that green's still stealing from other colours, because there are other egregious offenders even within this set of green taking other colours' abilities. But it's funny that they said that these effects, like Kabukova's, makes sense, right? Because it's almost like a narcissistic of the more swamps I have, the more mana I have, the more of me there is, the more me you get kind of thing. But that more mana aspect, that kind of that affecting the lands kind of idea, should feel green. So it's interesting that that it exists. Again,
Sure.
didn't expect it. I don't necessarily know if it ticks any boxes, but cool, good, worth mentioning. I think that was it. The only other one I had that was really cool was Revolutionist. One of my favourite cards from back in the day was Anarchist. It's a dude that brings back it's like an Archaeomancer, but in red. I think it just brings back a sorcery instead of an instant or sorcery like Archaeomancer did. Obviously, you had Ogre Savant from Ravnica, where it was a 4 and a red for a 3/3, and if you happen to play blue in its mana cost, it would return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. And then we've just got a little throwback. But I like it's no longer the Anarchist; it's now a Revolutionist.
Sure.
And what's funny is that the Revolutionist has madness, so maybe Revolution is again maybe it's a tongue in cheek kind of thing, but again, nice little throwback. Quite enjoy it. Yes, and I think that's all of my flavor highlights that I had on my list.
Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about squirrels.
Yes, let's.
Fucking hell! If there again, I know I don't want to keep banging this drum this episode, but if there wasn't another example of how Wizards wants to be in on the meme, Wizards of the Coast with this set to me strikes me as being like you're slightly too cool for their own good uncle. That's kind of looking over your shoulder and going, "Oh yeah, what's a TikTok when it's home then? Oh yeah, do a little dance, do you on the old TikToks? I should do my own TikTok,
yeah. And then somehow flosses like a boss.
Yeah,
and you're like, how did you learn this? How to do this, Uncle Jim?
Yeah, or at least the fucking attempts to. And like between the squirrels, between the dermataxi, between all the other shit that we've just mentioned over the past sort of like 45 minutes or so, is there going to be a point? Is there a tipping point where Wizards being hyper aware of their own jokes starts to actually become rather annoying and you just want to go, look, we'll do the fucking memes if you just do the fucking cards? Like, is there going to be a point? Because
is there a hound that makes skull tokens and it's like a Dogecoin reference?
Like,
that kind of thing?
It will happen. So there are squirrels in this set, and squirrels are a big archetype, and people love squirrels, like players love squirrels. There is the meme, which I'm kind of like feeding off of here, is that it takes, is it 13 squirrels to kill Emrakul?
15,
because it's 15 1/1s versus 15, right? So that's the meme. And squirrels have been like, again, they're like a staple of unsets. Like we've had several like squirrel cards and squirrel commanders and whatever. There are squirrel like hermit cards in other sets as well, and there are 2 in this one which they've made. But now they're really sticking to it as like a serious creature type, because we're getting like new colors for squirrels. We've now got green and black if you're looking at commander color identities for squirrels, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. The legendary creature, I'm just looking them up now, for the squirrel tribe is... Yes, sorry, there we go, found him. Chassafang, Squirrel General, which is a 2 colorless and a green for a legendary creature, Squirrel Warrior at Mythic, 3/3 with art by Jason Engel. Very cool art as well. And there is an alternate art also by Milivaj Saran. And it has Forest Walk, which is something that they were not really keen on in recent sets, but they brought back the walk mechanics, so it's unblockable if your opponent has forests. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green scroll tokens are created instead, and has black, sacrifice X scrolls, target creature gets +X -X until end of turn. So yeah, either use it as a pump effect or as a kill off someone else's thing effect. And he looks gnarly as fuck. He is an angry squirrel general. He's got black and green fur. He's got a fang necklace and a milky eye, so it's been scratched out, and he's got an army of squirrels behind him. Terrifying. Like they've really made squirrels like the kind of, we will overthrow the human race. Right?
Yeah, right. Like what's the there's a card in an original set called When Fluffy Bunnies Attack, and I always just
Yes.
think like, oh, but imagine if like because like sharp teeth and everything, like that's scary as fuck when the squirrels come for you, isn't it? A Rick and Morty episode as well where the squirrels
Mm-hmm.
turn on humanity,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. There's
Exactly, it's that kind of thing.
the other card, one of the sort of like squirrel hermit cards that I mentioned is Draykeeper, which is 3 black green for a elf druid 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, create 2/1/1 squirrel creature tokens, and it has colors and 3 colors and a black. Squirrels you control get +1/+0 and gain menace until end of turn. And the Kev Walker artwork shows the hermit on a branch with a bunch of squirrels around them, and all the squirrels have like children of the corn. Is it like that horrible horror film where all the children have glowy eyes? Like all the squirrels have like
Yeah.
glowy eyes and they're just staring at you. It's utterly terrifying. So they're obviously going for like a scary over cute thing. We've got Squirrel Sovereign, which is a squirrel noble.
Looks so cute, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the thing. Some of them are really, really cute, and then some of them look nasty as fuck. There's even like shambling. Oh, what's the shambling one where it dies? You get a number of squirrels equal to its power, and the idea is almost like that these
Scurry Oak.
I've got nested shambler as well. Again,
God, there's so many.
So many of them. Yeah, the idea.
Small Fear is another one. You've got, colorless and a green. Proliferate. Target creature you control fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. It's fun when they run a little. Wastoria Necru Queen. And it's, yeah. Is that a squirrel's hands?
No, that's the cat dragon.
That's the cat dragon. Of course
cat
it
dragon,
is.
Yeah.
Right. So they're still doing cute animals. It's just, squirrels everywhere.
Well, the other one's Chitter Spitter as well.
Yes.
And which is you sacrifice a token, but let me find it because the implication, again, this is implication the set. This is what it is. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice a token. If you do, put an acorn counter on it, and then you can pay a green, tap, and put a 1/1 green squirrel into play. Squirrels you control get +1/+1 for each acorn counter. Now, the implication here is that you throw the squirrel in and an acorn gets fired out, and it's almost like an old school like goblin artwork, right? Of where they've kind of how twee can we make this, and it's this normal looking squirrel, right? And it's not wearing any clothes or anything. They're clean, like they're sentient, but they're not like super like organized to the point of where they have like belts and hats and stuff like that. But like it's got this almost like crank effect of where it's firing out the acorns. I'm like, who the hell? Who taught the squirrels technology like this? Like again, the implication they'll take over the world. We're going to get you had Bevy of Beevils as a planeswalker. Soon it's going to be you've had Grist is all the insects. We're going to get a squirrel planeswalker, and it's going to take over the multiverse.
Yeah,
and I welcome our new squirrel overlords.
I mean, sure, but I just kind of feel I don't know. I'm not like the biggest sort of like squirrel as a meme creature type fan as it is in general. I do use a lot of squirrel synergies in my Pippa silver bordered deck, but I just sort of feel like the way that they've pushed it, it's almost like it might just kill the joke a little bit if they keep pushing it, like doing like Chatterfang Squirrel General and then having one of the other cards might have been a bit like, oh, cheeky, we can do like some cool cards. But like this set has like a whole squirrel sub theme when it doesn't really have anything other like creature sub themes. It's like if you want to do tribal, you're doing squirrels in this set.
Yeah, there's
like,
no other tribe. Yeah, it's really strange. I also find it's interesting that I guess because Acornelia came out right in the unset, so it's kind of like if you wanted to play squirrels, the only way you could do it was by playing a silver border card. So obviously that rubs up some people up the wrong way. Even rule zeroing it sometimes doesn't work. So now at least you've got a legitimate option to be able to do the deck. That's like the main reason I think that they did it, and I don't know where else you could do it. Again, if this is going to be a black border unset, I guess that this is the only place you could really get the squirrels in there. I'm glad they didn't also do more dogs and also more cats. Like I'm glad they kind of stuck to one meme, as it were.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Some other quick fire flavor picks before we move on to some maybe some flavor fails. I want to talk about art of the set, and maybe some predictions. So I'm just going to rapid fire off some things that I've noticed. On the card Fey Offering, we have a flavor text from Tulane, Teller of Tales, which is kind of cool to see that character back again. The flavor text reads, beware the gift when you do not know the giver, Tulane, Teller of Tales. So a nice little callback to Eldraine. I like seeing little bits of Eldraine because as much as we did get a lot of storyline, it was cool to see just like some of the like folk tales, if you like, from Eldraine, which is quite nice. The card Scuttletide is a blue card that references Innistrad, and the flavor text has Gisa Ghoulcaller talking about how they need more butter to eat all the crabs because all the crabs are coming in. So that's confirmed. They eat crab on Innistrad. I wouldn't fucking eat the crabs on Innistrad that are coming in.
Hell no, the crabs will eat you.
Exactly. On Innistrad, are you kidding? What are they doing? Like, the sea is full of terrors. I wouldn't eat those.
I guess, imagine having a crab claw like the size of like a steak, though. Oh, man.
I would,
great.
yeah, but then it would sprout eyes and try to like suck my face into it.
True.
No, thank you.
Also, what are they milking for the butter?
I mean, they have cows on Innistrad.
Oh, I suppose, yeah,
surely.
they do. Yeah.
What do you?
I guess that's a whole other question.
The
milk episode. I guess that's already been covered, right? By
yes,
Commander Sphere. Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Commander Sphere for doing possibly one of the most tense hours of Magic the Gathering content I've ever heard in my life with the milk episode. Look up that one yourself. Big shout out to them. That fantastic episode, but also I will never listen to it again. Moving on, we've got Phantasmal Dreadmore instead of Colossal Dreadmore. Again,
the memes.
It's another joke, which is like, oh, they print Colossal Dreadmore in every set, and I am fucking sick of it. I played a lot of Ixalan. I didn't need to see it twice, and then in the subsequent like draft sets, and now they printed it in blue. Fuck off. Hate it. The card Moderation has a Bruna statue on it, which is exactly what I said for Hallowed Fountain in our Ravnica Shocklands episode. Oh, not Ravnica Shocklands episode. I said Hallowed Fountain should be a statue of Breya. And then we get a card which has a Bruna, sorry. And then we have a card that has a statue of Bruna on it. Just thought it was interesting. I'm definitely a prophet. We've got Break Ties, which shows Baron and Rain randomly in this set. We just get a nod to Baron and Rain from Dominaria. I don't quite know the implications of this artwork because it looks like the locket has some sort of magical property to it because it's got like the sort of Mirari conjecture sort of star map on the other side of the locket.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe it's a stopwatch. It's got like a stopwatch kind of a feel to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to assume it's one of the two of them holding it. Again, this is where saying its current storyline obviously makes no sense because a lot of even some of the characters are throwbacks to like centuries, millennia ago, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, very, very, very cool. Again, it's weird that they didn't get an updated card for either of them. I guess.
Well, we had Baron.
Baron came, and we had a recent Baron. But it's weird that they did a recent Baron. They didn't do a recent Rain when they're going to show both in the artwork. Again, maybe we see Rain in coming up in the future.
Yeah, it'd be nice to because we've had. I mean, I guess we only had one Hannah card, but she got an updated artwork, which is pretty cool. Moving on, we've got Young Necromancer, which is Young Pyromancer, but for Liliana. Very cool idea. I kind of like the idea that all the Law in 5 Planeswalkers have their own little fans that kind of go around trying to be them.
Oh, God, Jace does not need any more fanboys. No. But yeah, very cool that she's got a little headdress on. Yeah, it's quite cool.
Very, very cool. A lot of this other stuff on my list we've spoken about, which is kind of cool. Oh, Glimmerban. We've got a Glimmerban.
Oh God, yes. Oh, why did I miss? Yeah, but I don't know if Oof's my favorite creature type or not. But Gilderben is used to be one of my favorite cards. It was a very, very hard cut from my Pure and Toothy deck.
Yeah,
recently.
I agree. I've had a similar experience with it for sure.
But yeah, look at him. Nils, right? We're gonna hijack this by saying Nils Ham has knocked it out of the park this set. Between that and Lucid Dreams, holy fucking shit! I need these playmats. Yeah. Look how cute he is. But again, implication: is he eating these little cute little animals?
No, I think no. I sacrifice a token. Glimmerbeam and gets +2/+2 into.
That looks like an elk token to me, buddy.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I just like the fact that the oofs of the Bairn variety are like little cosplayers.
Yeah, who made his little costume?
He's a little Mothman or a little butterfly, and then Gilderban's a little bear, isn't he?
Yeah, it's so cute. Oh, it's amazing.
Tricks and treats, souls and sweets, on wooded path, whom shall we meet? Brilliant. Love
Fantastic. Love it. Ship
Absolutely
it.
Love it.
Beautiful.
I love that there's a cosplay that I can pull off as well now for Magic. That's kind of cool.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's such a cut. Oh, fantastic. That's it. First Magic Fest, we're going as bands. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we could hold hands and walk into that.
It's so cute. Oh, amazing. I love it.
Next up, we have Goblin Anarchomancer. My question, Nathan, is what the fuck is Anarchomancy?
I guess so this is it, right? It's kind of like the speech magic from Strixhaven, right, with the Silver Quill, but instead it causes people to be anarchistic as well, like anarchism. What's the word I'm looking for? What is English?
Anarchists.
Yeah, so it turns them into anarchists, right? And I think that's the idea.
I had exactly the same thought. I thought this is a really Like, this is just the flip side of a vainglory. You're right,
Yeah,
100% right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's an inciter of anarchy. There we go.
Yeah,
God,
so this is
man.
another Ravnica reference. So obviously it's very Gruul. It's a very Gruul idea that you kind of
Yes.
smash the state or whatever. Even though this is yet another in a long line of example of them using the word anarchy as a baseline for words for Gruul cards, which have
Mm.
nothing the fuck to do with anarchy, and it's just violence for violence sake. Like, what was his name? Anarch of Bolus was the
Domri,
title given to
yeah.
Domri. You can't be
Mm.
an anarch of someone else.
Yeah, it's like being it's like being a oh, what was the bachelor thing? I can't remember. My brain's not working. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
You
Good
can't.
job.
Yeah, exactly. You're what? Like you're a rebel for the government. Like what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, how can you be
So,
a rebel? Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't
exactly.
makes no sense.
So whatever, sure. Anarchomancy, just yet again the writing team just having fun of going, what kind of crazy magics can we come up with? But whatever, they're having fun with it. An exciting reprint for Sterling Grove as well. Sam McKinnon, get the Sam
Yeah,
McKinnon MTGO exclusive artwork, pretty cool.
controversy in terms of whether or not Judge Promo artwork should be available in current sets. I get over it. I really want the artwork, and I can't be asked to pay 80 quid for it. Sorry.
Interesting. Do you know what? That's one I'm not going to get into because I
Mm.
kind of feel for both sides.
Exactly right. I completely understand the point. I'm glad that I'm happy that I have the option to have it. I wouldn't have minded had it not been an option, but it is. Yeah. Again, yeah. Yeah. We're not going to get into
No.
it.
Oh, one little last thing before we get on to some more structured little lists here, because I mean, we're not getting to the end of it. We've still got a little bit to go. We've got looking at my list. There we go. Search the Premises is a white card in this set with Matt
Mm.
Stewart artwork. Matt Stewart also did the artwork for Thraben Inspector, which was a white clue synergistic creature card from Shadows of Innistrad block. And you see the Thraben Inspector in the background of this group of Cathar inspectors breaking into a homestead. I think they're looking for Geezer and Geralf. Is that right?
That would make sense, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because they're saying in the Flavour text, to halt these lurid practices, Geralf must be found and made an example of.
Mm.
It's funny that she looks kind of put, the Inquisitor looks a little bit put off in her own card, and in this she looks disgusted. It's great. The little zoom in on her face is great. I've never seen someone so perturbed. I'm also glad you brought it up, because I think this is like secret sleeper of the set. Like, we've seen 4-mana white enchantments that go like, I guess what kind of draws you cards. Like, we've seen those kinds of effects before end up being very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really cool twist on a ghostly prison effect, because it's not a matter of, it's not like I stop you from doing the thing. It's like, okay, if you do the thing, at least I get a benefit from it, right? It's not white going, no, it's white going, okay, well then I get something. And I think, yeah, now I'm going to be buying up a couple of these. I think it's quite a cool card.
Sure. So that's it for my big flavor picks. Before we move on to some sort of more general like highlights of the set, there are people going to be listening to this going, talk about Turok, talk about Cevulians of Science, Sea and Sky. Like, there are obviously other characters in this set which are long time coming and have been referenced in many other things. But there is just too much to talk about. It's cool that Turok's got a card with 2 artworks as well, and you've got Turok's Canticle. But yeah, very cool. They've obviously thought a lot about it. Let's just talk about the art for a minute. I know we've spoken a little bit about art in individual things. I mean, the artwork in this set, like most sets, has been pretty good. I don't think it's quite as card for card staggering as some of the other sets of recent note, but there are some individual cards that I was like, holy shit. We've mentioned one of them already. Lucid Dreams by Nils Harm
Oh my
is
God.
fucking great.
Unbelievable, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's got such a lovely softness to his palette that it just feels so. It's almost like a massage to your eyes, right? Like, some things are really striking and like really bold, and I really like harsh, bold, like almost like acrylic, like neon colors. Like, I'm a big fan of, and I'll talk about it in a second. But I'm not usually a big fan of pastels. I don't like soft colors as much. But Nils Ham, literally, I can't get over it.
It's a style, right, that lends itself to like how we've seen it in other cards where it's maybe something a little bit more off-putting, like Baleful Strix is the classic Nils Ham kind of card example, where it's not meant to be kind of a soothing card. It's meant to be very mysterious and kind of jarring to look at because it's a Strix. Strix is generally very mysterious, but it's also an art style that, again, yeah, as you say, lends itself to those more dreamlike artworks, like exactly what it's doing here, where it's showing a character in what you can only presume is their own dream, where they're kind of going down a ladder through a riverbed with a bunch of fish swimming around them. And it is exactly the kind of illustration that you'd expect to find on like the cover art for like a Lewis Carroll novel or something like
Absolutely,
that.
yeah. It's funny because he also did Bone Splints as well, so he has got such a range of being able to do things that feel like visceral while also feeling really dreamlike. Again, he did the Bairns as well, so
Hmm.
really, really, really good. What's the word I'm looking for? Breadth of style. Like it's really good. Good job, Nils.
Mm.
Cannot do wrong.
The next one I had on my little list is Cabal Initiate by Bastien Eldahame.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is such a you artwork. Yeah.
It is indeed, and you know, it's the kind of thing where sometimes I look at the artworks in sets, and there are some like huge I do like vistas and landscapes, and you know representations of huge spells that like are doing crazy things. You know, you think, oh yeah, wow, that's such a cool representation. But I must admit, the ones that do tend to catch my eye uh figures, so like characters. So this is Cabal Initiate is a human warlock 2142, or a colorless and a black, and it's just a Cabal warlock, as in like the Cabal on Dominaria. So it's not exactly like a new thing, but just the way that Dahame hits this aesthetic with, you know, the bald Cabal Initiate look, the pale skin with all the candles, and just the whole kind of essence of it all. It just looks. It's like it's the archetype of this type of character in Magic. Like if you were to be like, who the hell are the Cabal and who are their like acolytes, you would show them this artwork, right? And it's just, it absolutely smashed out of the park for me. I don't know why. I was just, whenever I scrolled through the gallery, this one just really hit the mark. Hear our prayers, O shadowed one, and bless us in bloody agony is the flavor text as well. So yeah,
That's good, right?
cool, very cool. So yeah, I just really like this one.
Yeah, my next one's Kaleidoscorch.
Oh yeah,
Because it's just
Kaleidoscorch.
so striking. Again, this is me talking about like I like really bold, bright, almost like acrylic palettes, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
I like it where it kind of slaps you as you go past, and it just pops. Like Andrew Mars, the artist, it's a converged spell. I mean, it's like, again, it's typical sorcery of where it does like a small amount of damage. So it's converged. So for each color of mana spent to cast it, it does X damage equals the number of colors. So it's 2 mana on its front side, flashback for 5. So yeah, you're just traditional, bread and butter burn spell, but it's got a jet of flame going through a snake, and then it bursts into all the colors of the rainbow on the other side of it. It stood out exactly as it should. The idea is, it's a big blast and it hits you as much as it hits the snake. Really, really cool, really striking. I love any cards that kind of get a rainbow effect in there. To a
Yeah.
similar effect, Elena Dana with Sweep the Skies.
Ooh.
Perfecting that crystalline rainbow prism like effect. So what's really strange, interesting about this is the first time we've seen almost like not natural thopters, but at least thopters that don't feel entirely mechanical, right? Like the wings almost feel like glass like instead of being made out of metal, or on Kaladesh where they almost have like ether motors in them, right, that keeps them flying. Like these, I don't even know where we are here. Like it might be, I mean, the spies in the background might be slightly Ravnican. I think it's almost deliberately evasive at kind of stating where they are, because it says even in the flavor text, a gleam of refracted light is often the only warning. So again, it's a swarm as well, so it doesn't feel like it's Esper, it doesn't feel like it's Kaladesh, so I'm not entirely sure where these thopters are, but really cool. Again, I've loved this rainbow crystalline effect. Big fan of thopters. I think thopter might be my favorite token. I'm a big fan of artifact strategies, and I like a lot of the cards that make them, things like Cybrea, that kind of thing.
We
So
haven't talked about tokens. We need to do a token episode.
yes, okay, good, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a good. Yeah, we talked about it almost like
7
3
hour
times this
token
episode.
episode.
Man, it would be, because tokens are surprisingly deep in terms of like the stuff we can talk about for them, as well as raging at the ones that haven't been made, like the Black Snake and things like that.
Oh, that's his own episode. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. The other art, just one other art I want to kind of point out in this set, and actually looking at it, it is very on brand for me. Again, it was the same thing. Is Priest of the Fellrights
Yeah,
by Pauline Voss.
Knew it.
Yeah,
I was like, he's gonna talk about this one. He's gonna talk about this one. There's no need for me to put it on my list. Yeah.
Pauline Voss. This is first time Magic art for Pauline Voss, alongside Storm God's Oracle, which is also in the set, which is also an honourable mention. So Priest of the Fellrights is a human warlock, is a black and a white, and it shows a priestess in a wood with 2 elk that she's, I don't know whether she's summoning, she's doing some kind of magic. She's got a staff on. She also has a headdress with the elk antlers on it as well, but in front of a full moon. So there's obviously some kind of dark ritual going on. Either she's summoning or she's using the elk for some dark magic. And her eyes and the elk's eyes are crying black ichor as well. The reason I love this, not only is just the artwork just a really impressive piece of art, but Pauline Voss, if you look at her portfolio outside of the game, because obviously she's only now done 2 cards, technically 3 with the sketch showcase frame, which we haven't really spoken about in this set. She's one of these artists which kind of, you have, I guess you would call it romantic fantasy, although it's not quite romantic fantasy. But essentially, it's a lot of work on like figures and sort of, the beauty of the human form with high fantasy as well. So they'll do like, like centaurs, but they're like nude from the like waist up, I suppose you'd say.
Mm.
And obviously you can't have that in the game of Magic, but they tend to find this line with Priest of the Fell Rites and Storm God's Oracle, where they have that sort of sense of power through sensuality in the figure. Like the priestess is obviously quite a central character, like the way the robes are flowing and the position that they're stood in. It's not like the most modest of artworks, but it also rides that line between not being male gazy, it's not explicit, it's not gratuitous, it's not exploitative of the character. And you don't see this artwork very often in Magic because that's a very hard line to ride. And unfortunately, you got a lot of like romantic fantasy artwork in earlier sets by artists who were very skilled in doing so. But because in like mid to late 90s, early 2000s, fantasy art just didn't have the same sensibilities as it does now, you also ended up with stupid shit like Earthbound, right? And
Right,
just
yeah.
artworks which just, took things too far or just didn't consider what they were doing. I mean, even arguably some Planeswalker cards, some early like Lilianas, were just maybe just a bit too much, like a bit too on the nose. So it's just, my point is it's nice to see artists like Pauline Voss able to bring their style into the game and kind of give a nod to this side of things, because being puritanical about things is not always the best, especially when you're dealing with fantasy IPs, without necessarily making things gratuitous. And that's a very long-winded saying I like this style of artwork. I think we should see some more elements of it in the game, not all the time, because then it just becomes fan service. But it's nice to see that every once in a while, the art directors can trust artists to bring different styles to the game that are not just kids artwork. This is high fantasy with a priestess doing priestess shit. And I appreciate it. I think it's very cool.
I think my last one for art to mention, and unfortunately to the artist, I'm probably going to be able to pronounce her first name. This is Anastasia of Chinikova, and it's the alternate art to Cabal Coffers.
Oh yes,
holy fucking shit! That is stunning, and it's so aggravating to know that it's going to be about $100 to be able to even buy it from release. There is no way I'm ever getting hold of a copy of this unless I have a massive windfall and I give myself a birthday present. It is stunning. It's nice to see them do the old artwork. I would have preferred, obviously, for them to have done the same artwork for both. I think it's maybe a little bit deliberate. It's almost deliberate, right? Of where they go, okay, for all of you folks out there that have a Cabal Coffers that maybe now be worth a little bit less because it's been reprinted. If you still want that premium aspect of it, go and buy the alternate artwork, and you can still flex on all your friends, because I don't know if everyone's gonna be able to afford it. But it is so nice just have a little reimagining, because the original Cabal Coffers doesn't have the grandness, the scale that kind of it gives off, because the flavor text in the original is deep within the Cabal's vault, the Mirari pulse like a dead sun, and its darkness radiated across Ataria. And it doesn't really give off that kind of vibe. Like, it has that ominous aspect. There's even this figure in the background of the doorway for no reason, seemingly. Whereas in the new one, not only does it get the new artwork, it gets new flavor text as well. The Cabal required a suitably immense space to house the lucrative fruits of their religious zeal. And again, it shows it kind of in different ways. Instead of being in darkness in the corner, it's in front and center. It's got this kind of ominous, like, moonlight glow. It has a bit more grandness to the coffers as well. It kind of sells the card a little bit better at being this iconic, like, one of the strongest lands, I think, especially in something like EGH, one of the strongest lands that you can possibly play. Really cool, really great to see it. Annoyed that I might not be able to play it myself, but I'm glad that it got an update. It's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, there does seem to be a bit of a sub-theme, actually, talking about storylines throughout the set. There are actually quite a lot of Cabal and Dominaria cards, and also things like the Mirari's Wake has been reprinted in this set as well.
Yeah, true.
So
with new artwork as well, yeah.
It is kind of, maybe doing some Dominaria shit.
Well, it's throwback, cool. Right? It's throwback. So they want to make it feel, again, with a modern set, right? You want it to have that kind of feeling of it's a little bit older as well, because it's playing towards an eternal format, right? So you kind of want it to feel like it's incorporating not only new stuff, but also bringing some of the old stuff back into the front. You're not in just reprinting cards like Counterspell and making them more relevant because they are within the format, but also the storylines and the characters and the themes from that era, bringing that into the modern age as well. I think they've done a very good job of that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on just to a couple of weird things that we've noticed. I know you spoke about earlier about things where you were like, I'm not sure how I feel about this. But these are things that are actually what I would consider like weird flavor misses. I don't know, flavor fails. Flavor fails is a bit memey, but like just things where I'm like, I just don't understand why you've done that. We don't usually do this because it's you just end up bitching and moaning. But these ones are just really strange. And I
We
just
never bitch and moan. We're great at staying positive all the time.
Well, one of the things I really didn't want us to do in this podcast, I remember it like a year and a half ago when we first started this, is I just didn't want us to be like certain content creators who shall not be named, who have ended up just making like gotcha videos and like just like, oh, Wizards has ruined the game with this thing and blah blah
Here's
blah
my
blah.
aggressive hot take. Disagree
Yeah.
if you want. That's engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that, but there are some things where I've just gone, I don't know if you knew what you were doing when you did this. We mentioned it earlier. What's with some, not even all, but some of the suspend cards in this set having this weird like portal window motif?
Yeah, like
In Inevitable Betrayal, Glimpse of Tomorrow, and the Resurgent Belief are the ones that I've seen.
Gaia's Will as
Guy's
well.
Will.
Yeah, the whole cycle has the
what?
weird little portal.
But they're
I
not the
didn't-
only suspend cards in the set, and the other ones don't have that.
Yeah, the thing I find, I mean, as much as I like Guy's Will because it looks like Guy's just coming going, hello, can I come in for tea, please? I quite like that because it's kind of funny. And I like, because it was originally this was in Ancestral Vision, right, of where they created this portal window when they did the new artwork for it. The original artwork almost showed like a blast of the past, right? That was the whole idea, is it was kind of messing around with timey-wimey stuff. Obviously, the idea is you're kind of like looking at the future rather than at the past with suspend cards. So I get that it's almost like a portal into the past because it's the portal from the past into the future, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff. Things like Glimpse of Tomorrow make sense, even though I feel like they probably could have been more evocative of it. They could have maybe shown the difference between the bits outside of the window, within the window. But again, it feels like it's almost like I don't know what a good way of saying it is, but it feels like it almost like feels like a visual meme at that point, right? Of where it's because they're all formatted the same, it doesn't necessarily always work. Like with Inevitable Betrayal, I don't know if it works with the artwork or gives it any real compliment. It's not like I'd have liked it for Inevitable Betrayal to see someone's hand coming through, like in Doctor Strange when Wong's listening to Beyonce and he's reaching through the portals and taking books from behind him.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have minded something like that, but you can't just put a circle around it and go, hey, it's a suspend card.
well, yeah, and also
done.
like with Ancestral Visions, like you're right, there is that Mod Masters print which has that motif on it, which is where they're pulling it from. So obviously I know what they're doing. I'm not just like completely, but I don't understand why they've re-employed it in this, because that wasn't the artwork that's even been most printed for that card. So yeah, it just seems a little bit weird.
Yeah, it is a strange one. And it's funny that they didn't do it for the Profane Tutor, but they did it for all of the others. And I guess so it's slightly different in the white one and the blue one if it doesn't have the exact same kind of motif. And I guess they give them almost their own little flexes. But yeah, it seems to detract from the flavour of the card rather than accentuate. I'm not saying any of the artworks are bad, because I don't think they are. It's just strange that if they sent a motif, they didn't do it across the entire cycle, and I just don't necessarily think it works.
No,
or
and like
makes
for
the
the
card better.
Resurgent Belief, because it just doesn't work in world. What is it that's making that portal through to see Erois and Thassa?
Exactly. And then why would Erois and Thassa of all the gods be next to each other? It's confusing in and of itself. Like I want to know what the artistic brief for it was. Like Inevitable Betrayal again. Like what's all the weird red stuff around the outside? Like I'm not saying that the art itself isn't nice to look at. It's just it doesn't give me an understanding of what the card's trying to do. Right? I mean, the red one's maybe the most forgivable because it's the idea of a glimpse into tomorrow. But then it's just a cityscape, right? It wasn't even necessarily as interesting as it could be. So yeah, it's a strange choice. And
it was just something that I was just like, I just didn't quite get it. I think maybe they were trying to shoot for something that just didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
The next one for me, another suspend card, Soul Talisman.
Yeah,
Suspend
right.
3 and then 1 colourless. So rather than cast this card from your hand, you may pay 1 colourless and exile it with 3 time counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last one is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost, and then it taps for 2 colourless. So it's a Soul Ring for Suspend 3, which functionally fine, whatever. A talisman is like a thing you carry on you, and like is like a trinket. This thing looks fucking huge. Also, what the hell is it?
Yeah. Also, the talismans are already a cycle that do a thing.
Yeah.
So you're again. I like the soul aspect because yes, fair enough. It's got the evocation of it being like the soul ring, the prestigious artwork soul ring, the new modern soul ring artwork. Of being a circle, whatever. It has a Mox Tantalite looking kind of pedestal because obviously the Mox Tantalite was a suspended Mox. Fair enough, cool. But yeah, again, like it doesn't feel like how we said it was quite nice when we did the bunch of rocks of where some of them felt more like tangible in world used mana rocks. Like you hold the rock and it gives you the ability to make more mana. It doesn't necessarily work here, right? Because it's on a pedestal. And again, it felt like they were trying to because we said last week, I was listening back to our last week's cast a couple of days ago, and we were saying about how, in terms of staples, it's very difficult to do it for mana rocks because they serve a very specific function, and it's hard to kind of give them a flavor flex or change them. And this is them clearly trying to go, how else can we put a new soul ring into the set? Well, we did a suspend on the Tantalite last, and it feels like that throughout everything, right? Not just in what the card does mechanically, but also how it feels flavorfully. And again, like tapping in, yeah, it also looks dilapidated, right? It doesn't look new. It looks very old. Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like this was them trying a bit too hard to make. Oh, let's put a mana rock into the set. Let's make the new, because everything has to have, like either a Crow Mox, or the Mox Tantalite, or the Arcane Signet. It needs to have the mana rock, right? That's going to take the world by storm, and no one was expecting it. Beyond that, I don't necessarily think it's very good. I mean, you want your fast mana early, right? You don't want to suspend it for 3.
I said this, and I said this to another Commander player, another 2 actually, Commander players, and they thought I was nuts. They were like, "It's another Soul Ring. What are you talking about?" I didn't necessarily think it was all that either.
Yeah, who likes Soul Ring on turn 4? Yeah, okay, it jets you up a single mana, but the amount of times that I've seen it play, it's like, oh, the right on time Soul Ring, and you're not upset to play it, but you draw this on turn 4. You gotta wait till turn 7 for 2 fucking mana. I'm all right. No, I'm good, mate. Yeah,
Yeah, it's only good if you're playing it literally turn 1. You go land, suspend it.
Yeah, and again, wrong format, fair enough. If you can play for up to 4 copies of this in your modern deck, maybe you're more realistically suspending it on turn 1, but then you're relying on a turn 4 play that they can see coming. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I felt like they were trying too hard with this one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, well that's it. I don't want to grumble about specific things too much because it's hard to make a game. So
can I? I've got a couple.
All right.
One that's just, this is me going. This is, instead of trying too hard, this is where I don't feel they tried hard enough. Ornithopter of Paradise. Get to fuck.
Oh, okay.
Don't take a one mana fucking birds. But don't take Birds of Paradise. Make it 1 mana more expensive. And then don't take Ornithopter and make it 2 mana more expensive. Put them together as a card and go, that's good, right? Like, yeah, I get what you're trying to do.
They've been doing this with cards for a while, though.
Yeah, I know, but that's what annoys me. I'm like, you just literally went, what 2 cards can we strap together? Oh, iconic 0-drop flyer. Oh, this other iconic 0-drop flyer. Let's just throw them together. That'll do, right?
What's the one they did where it was Elvish Visionary? And
yeah, 3 Elvish Visionaries. It was just 3 Llanowar Elves together.
No, but they did an Elvish Visionary, which was another card as well. I can't quite remember.
It's just, I don't mind when you're doing an inversion or a subversion of a pre-existing card. That's fine. Like Brainstorm doesn't annoy me too much, right? But I just felt like they just went, spin a wheel on 2 random cards. Cool, fuse them together. This isn't fucking Yu-Gi-Oh, right? You can't just polymerization cards together. It doesn't work.
Okay.
And then the other one I've got that's interesting, and this isn't necessarily flavor fail, it's more a flavor point in terms of cards. And it's Zabaz the Glimmer Wasp. And for all of the awesomeness of everything else about it, what I love is the one line of text. It's a single red, destroy target artifact you control. The reason I bring this up is because it kind of highlights that they've never just had an ability on the card that says sacrifice an artifact. There is no ability in Magic currently where you can't just do a thing like discard a card for no effect. And it was kind of interesting that made me think, I wonder how many other things that's held them back from doing.
I see what you mean. It's not like Clan Ironworks where you're sacrificing it to create mana. This is literally it's just for no value, sacrifice a thing.
Yeah, because it's a modular commander. Obviously, you want your modular creatures to die to prove the counters, but you can't just go sacrifice creature. The effect of that creature happens, so you have to have a thing, that makes it. But it's just an interesting thing that came up when I was reading through. Another colourless commander that isn't actually colourless. Good luck, guys.
I thought you would have been mad about his name being too close to Shabraz.
There's a Garth and a Karth in this set, mate. Okay, but that's not a hill I'm willing to die on today. Okay, that's a hill we could die on some other time.
Fair enough. All right, then let's just because we are now starting to run quite long. Let's just talk about a couple of weird little flavor predictions or flavor nods to what might be happening in the future that we think this set might be talking about. So we'll start with my one because mine's a bit shakier than yours. I think yours is actually a lot cleaner. There's a lot of reprints in this set from older sets. One of them is Patriarch's Bidding, which is a black reprint from what did we say it was? It was Armageddon.
Onslaught. Yeah,
there we go. I always get my
Onslaught.
the
spidery icon.
That Armageddon Onslaught and Invasion are always the ones that I get mixed up with. I don't know about anyone else. So Patriarch's Bidding is 3 black for a sorcery that reads: each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of a type chosen this way from graveyards to the battlefield. Fucking hell, no wonder they've cleaned up. That would say nowadays, each player returns all creatures of that creature type to the battlefield. you can tell how they've changed up wording and stuff.
Mm.
And the flavor text is, there's some new darkness in the air tonight. If I were you, I'd stay home and lock the doors. Ferric, Village Warden. And the artwork by, who is the artwork? By Isil Gort, is of a pack of lycanthropes, a pack of werewolves, and the rest of them are bowing down to the alpha, and the alpha is performing some sort of rite in front of a full hunter's moon. Now, the thing that I think is interesting about this is that we know we're going to get a werewolf-specific set later in the year when the first half of the Innistrad sets, or is it the first or the second half? It doesn't matter.
I think it's first half. I think it's Hunter's Moon and then Crimson Vow's the second one.
Sure.
Don't quite know it though.
So we know that we're going to get a werewolf set later in the year, and then this is a very specific tribal reprint with werewolf artwork, which was the OG artwork as well from that set. I just think it's a little bit too on the nose for what's coming at the end of the year, and I wonder if we're going to see black werewolves in.
I was going to say, imagine if they do a mono black werewolf commander and you just flip everything in sight. It's like you finally get your werewolf commander, can't play any. They're like, but we gave you Ulrich for your red green ones, right? Were you not playing that? And everyone's like, no one wanted that. Yeah, that'll be so funny. I mean, Jund is what everyone really wants, right? And maybe this hints at there being a change.
Well,
in
it
the
would let
coloration.
you play. There's a bunch of lycanthrope cards from early Magic, which before werewolf was a thing, there was a bunch of lycanthropes. So people want that for the kind of memes, but also it does fit kind of flavorfully that there would be darker werewolves that are more like ferocious. I don't know. I think it would work, Jund. So that's my one. I don't necessarily think they will do that because they seem kind of, even though Innistrad's not exactly like a guild or a clan led set, they do like their werewolves being in green red and like spirits being in blue white and blah blah blah, even though they do break that sometimes. But I wonder if we see a new Innistrad with kind of jumbled up covers.
I don't know what other sets or what other planes there's like an established werewolf tribe on, right? And again, they might be just throwing it back and didn't want to do a new artwork for it. But yeah, it does seem a bit suspect, considering.
Your one is also from Innistrad.
Yeah, similar vein. So this is Vermingorger. 1 in the black for a 2/2 creature vampire. Tap, sack another creature. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. The flavor text, once vampires ruled this world, commanding the fear and respect that befit our noble blood. Have we truly sunk so low? Sorin Markov. And it's basically someone, one of the vampires at the table. And it looks like a very decadent table, very well laid and everything. It's a little bit shabby chic, shall we say, but feasting on vermin, on rats. And the idea is, and this is what I first thought, is that maybe the reason why the Crimson Vow storyline has to happen is because after all of the aftermath of Innistrad's, various difficulties, shall we call them, that maybe the vampire clan has fallen so far that they need to obviously feast on basic animals to be able to survive, after the decimation of Emrakul, and also the fact that Sorin specifically balanced their own race, because they were getting too out of control. Maybe this is the idea that they need to reconsolidate, and this is why the marriage needs to happen between. I'm hoping that it's between Olivia and Runo. I'm hoping that's the whole point, that they fuse those two together. If it's Sorin who's getting married again, maybe they need to consolidate the powers and the bloodlines and reinforce them. Maybe because the bloodlines are getting too weak. To me, that feels appropriate. And again, why would you mention this here? Giving again a little snippet of. This is where we are now on the plane, right? Before leading into it and kind of having almost like, it's like maybe a prelude to the difficulty of that set, or the storyline that's going to happen in it.
Well, yeah, there's also, I think there's an idea that after Emrakul's influence has kind of infected all of the different races on Innistrad, and then the war to kind of save Innistrad from Emrakul, that the human population is now probably so low that the vampires have to look for other food sources.
Yeah, that balance is so out of favour that they can't feast on them whatsoever, so they have to go to petty livestock and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's a lot closer than my one for sure. Because it's kind of odd to see Sorin almost in favour of the vampires at this point, because usually he was never like anti-vampire, but he hated the fact that because the vampires were dominant, they would like overreach, and he saw their own sort of destruction.
Disdain of it, right? A disdain of the wanton greed and lust and everything. It doesn't feel very sorry. So it kind of goes, oh, I'm too cool to feed on humans. God, you guys are so desperate for blood.
Yeah. Whereas, this is almost like, this kind of shows that actually he's not anti-vampire. He's very in favour of vampires, but he wants the balance to be there so that things can kind of, the status quo can be maintained.
Well, that's the white part of his personality, right?
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, what a set. This is being heralded by a lot of people as being potentially the greatest Magic set of all time. And
Yes. Yeah, I'm not
I'm,
disinclined to agree. There are certain...
yeah,
I think they've done so much so well that it's very hard to argue that it's not a very, very, very strong set. Obviously, there is the massive caveat of how much it's going to cost to buy like boxes or whatever and that kind of thing. But everything from the mythics all the way down to the basic commons, like a lot of care and attention has been put into the set. Like, again, throwbacks, potential glimpses into the future. Like, I think this will be heralded for a long time as being one of the better designed sets. Especially, it's quite difficult to design for modern, right? Like, it's quite difficult to take an Eternal format, give it revitalization without completely rewriting the book. You know, we want to keep the pre-existing metagame healthy, whilst also kind of giving it a little shake up, whilst also having cards that are available outside for, you know, commander sets and that kind of thing, whilst also hitting all of the story notes, whilst also kind of having that tongue-in-cheek aspect. I mean, and to do one of these things in a set's difficult. To do all of them all together and pull it off, you know, some people think cards like Late to Dinner might be one of the best cards I've ever printed in terms of flavor beats, and like, I'm not inclined to disagree with them. I think I don't know what more they could have done. I'm glad they didn't try more. Like, it was enough as it is. You know, it's a supplemental fucking set, and they did more than they've done in years for most modern like sets. Like, compare the stories that you have in here compared to the stories we got on the cards for Theros Beyond Death, and it's like night and day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll have to see when we get the cards. It's always slightly different when the cards actually get released. We'll have to see kind of how much of it permeates once it's on the table. I mean, there's so much that we didn't talk about, and there's so many issues surrounding this set as well that we didn't really talk about in terms of like the fact that they've got the sketch frames and like the fact that they're pumping legends into this as opposed to commander sets. We can't get into all that now, but that's something that we'll have to talk about in the future.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk to us about the set, guys, or any flavor beats that you wish we'd spoken about and you want to hear about more, or if there's anything that we mentioned in this set that you want to talk about, you can reach us on Twitter at mtflavouring. Emails go to mtflavouring@gmail.com. My personal Twitter is at AndyManface. Nathan's, yours is
at the Fox in the Moon.
Do you have any final thoughts or feelings, Nathan?
Oh, I don't think so. No, that was a lot. That was a lot of words. It was a lot of words.
Yes. Yeah. We will, as you probably noticed, we had a week off, guys. We are probably still going to have a few weeks of slight turmoil. For the past sort of 6 months or so, we've been fairly regular, releasing on Sunday, Monday generally. But because our industries of hospitality and live events, respectively, are now starting to open back up again, and obviously things just need to get back into a rhythm, we might be going back to our sort of initial days of being semi-regular, sort of Sunday, Monday, but maybe also midweek as well. We'll still endeavour to get one out once every week, an episode every week, but it might be more like once every sort of 10 days or so. So apologies if that means that you get less of us, but also know we are doing everything we can to keep doing the podcast, because it's something that we absolutely love doing over lockdown. It's just lockdown's ending now, and we need to earn money to pay the rent.
The slog continues.
Absolutely. So, all that remains for me to say, guys, is thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Flavour.
We'll see you soon.